wonderful to see you all tonight. And welcome those who are watching from their home. And today we will come home. We will come to the full consciousness, which is a meeting in consciousness. For us to meet in consciousness, it is to recognize that you are already conscious, alive, existing. And that's fundamental simplicity, that you are conscious, alive, existing, is the greatest value of your existence. The value arises from the seeing of the truth and verifying that truth fundamentally, that without consciousness this would not exist. The value arises from seeing, from turning consciousness, awareness back into the source, back into itself, turning your focus, attention, awareness back to face the sun of consciousness behind. The meaning of consciousness as the most simple, verifiable existence. The meaning derives from the mind. This is where the mind is searching. The mind is looking for something. And the whole human existence, upon deeper inquiry, is found to be in search. In search for the fulfillment, in search for love, for peace and freedom. In search of recognizing that what we are looking for is inside us. Realizing that it is already here, we already have it, and coming closer and closer to our true nature. So fundamentally, your attention, focus, awareness, once it's directed inside and away from external distractions, it is the direct path, the direct way. Once we point our awareness, attention, focus back to our inner self and within, we start finding. The meaning arises. Synchronicities come to verify that we are on the right path. And our external life starts to transform, starts to materialize from the inner fulfillment, from the inner peace, from the inner love. our external life loses conditioning of the search and manifests as a flowering of fulfillment. So it is a fundamental shift in reality and how we experience this manifested way of living. And the most important meeting is recognition that we are conscious, aware beings. The mind and intelligence has been given too much value. Materialism is even lower. But the next place of value is meeting in presence, acknowledgement of the beingness of another person. Not necessarily sharing the knowledge, because that is a mental activity. Acknowledging the full being that you are meeting. Acknowledging the totality of the being that you are meeting. So it's no longer a shallow conversation of how is the weather today. It's the acknowledgement of the alive beingness of another being. Acknowledgement of life, that another being is alive, conscious, aware. So thus, every conscious being is immensely valuable. Every soul is immensely valuable. Because in every conscious being and in every soul there is the source. There is consciousness shining through. And the multiplicity of our manifestation, which is our body and all our different personalities, is the beauty of the expression of one consciousness, of how it manifested into all these different beings who share the same principle, the recognition of oneness, the recognition that we exist because we are conscious. The truth is so much simpler that we think. It's so much more immediate than we visualize or imagine. It is so much more simple than the mind wanted something more complicated to fulfill its needs. The ultimate truth is that you are conscious and aware. And who is conscious and aware? And that is the path of inquiry, disidentification from that which is not real and fundamental, and returning to your essence, identity, to the source of your identity, which doesn't change, which is unalterable, which cannot be hidden and cannot be even denied. So the only distance to the full consciousness is the meaning and the satisfaction of the mind. Until it starts to surrender, to see the value in simplicity, to see the value in recognition of existence. So the mind has created all these searches in objectivity, in materialism, in experiences, in excitements, and all kinds of million possible experiences, thinking that they will satisfy the mind. But we can make our journey shorter and easier by recognizing more and more and more the ultimate value of being conscious and aware. Anything else, we may say, is a distraction. Anything else fulfills the needs which are temporary, fulfills desires which are temporary. So thus the direct path is the most simplest path, but the greatest obstacle is of course the mind, which has all those needs, accumulations, desires and fears. It has created a completely altered version of reality, which we call the world of the mind. In the world of the mind there is nearly nothing natural, nothing real, and thus it is called as a great dream, as a great illusion. But the awakening is to see that dream and to start awakening from what the mind is projecting. Returning to full consciousness requires to transcend the mind. And as we know, there are thoughts, there are beliefs, there are subconscious conditionings. As we go deeper, we will realize that our perceptions color our reality. Our perceptions, how we see reality, are the different filters of the reality. So perceptions are the deepest structures of the mind. These are social values, family values. Even different countries have their different values. And as Buddha said 2,500 years ago, you should not believe in anything, no matter how long it's been practiced, preached, or taught. Even if someone was performing a ritual for 1,000 years, you should not believe in it and inquire with the conscious mind to see the truth, to always ask, what is the truth? What is the purpose of this action? So at the very deepest level, we need to see our perceptions. We need to recognize, how do we see reality? How it is painted? Is reality, how we see the world, is painted as negative or dark or difficult or struggle? Or is our perception of reality optimistic or positive or light, loving, present? These are all perceptions and levels of purifications of how purely and clearly we see reality, existence, consciousness. The beauty is that consciousness is bliss. Consciousness is the source, is the light. It includes love and peace, freedom and happiness. It fulfills all the needs, all desires. So the beautiful thing is that we are returning to something so immensely lightful, loving and blissful, that the only challenges are our fears, are our misconceptions and misperceptions. So the beauty is that we are returning to something so immensely beautiful, is that any kind of fear which we may come upon is a creation of the world of the mind. So the nature of the universe is harmony, is love, perfection, peace and freedom, and valuing every sentient, conscious being, valuing life, valuing existence. As Buddha said that when you see the flower, you should appreciate the aliveness of the flower. If you take the flower with you, you do not see the value of life. Because the flower is also a sentient, alive being. Even the flower, most of the flowers have a soul. So thus, if you take the flower with you, you shorten the existence of life of that particular soul. So this was the depth of the seeing of the nature of reality. And many sages throughout the history of humanity were all speaking of the same, of valuing life, of valuing every sentient being. And thus the ultimate goal is to bring everyone home. Is to bring everyone home back to your true nature, to the beauty, to this blissful light. Because once one arrives there, one realizes the immensity of beauty and value, and then one immediately realizes that the whole world is suffering, that every human being is so much disconnected from their true nature, living a dream, which is a very difficult one. So thus naturally arises a wish to assist others to return to their full consciousness. Full consciousness has no obstacles. And I really invite everyone to really deeply realize that you have no obstacles apart from the ones that you have created for yourself. There is no obstacle, no real obstacle to return to full consciousness, which is sometimes termed as enlightenment. And I would rather not use this terminology, because your belief system is already creating obstacles towards the full consciousness. So the belief system is already imagining of what it should be, that only a guru can be enlightened, only a few people can be enlightened, only those who are very lucky. And these are all belief systems of self-disempowerment and forgetfulness of your own true nature. We need to let go of any religions, of any belief systems, of any philosophies. It completely doesn't matter what somebody was saying a long time ago, unless they were actually enlightened beings. So any kind of philosophy is also not important. It's another hindrance. It is actually a lot easier to help someone from the street who is sincere and willing than to help a philosopher or a priest or a monk to come back to full consciousness. Because a priest, a monk or philosopher would already have deeply ingrained their mind with the rigid beliefs and structures and rituals. So we would need to spend so much more time to clear them out and purify them. And it is actually a lot easier to help someone who's fresh, new and open, who says, I just want to find the truth. I don't know what that means, but something deeply inside me tells me that this is what I'm looking for. And it is so much easier to help that sincere soul than to the all-knowing philosopher or priest. So There are no obstacles to your full consciousness apart from what you believe. And from what you believe what is possible, and from what you believe is not possible. So actually, in most cases, if you will examine your belief system, you will find that most of the beliefs are saying it's not possible. And thus, that is a self-created obstacle. And my duty is only to show you the truth, only to remind you that that is a self-created obstacle, and you are much more than what your mind believes. So ultimately, we need to unlearn everything, nearly everything that we have learned, and to come back to the innocence of a child, so that we can be pure again, completely open, tabula rasa, completely undistorted, untouched, unprogrammed, unconditioned. So that is the beauty of simplicity of your full consciousness, coming back to the innocence of a very infant child who has not yet been touched by the mind, by the system, by all these conditionings. So this is why it is called not attaining the full consciousness. It is called returning to the full consciousness, because that is who you really are. Attaining means aspiring to something greater that you don't have yet. Returning means that coming back to what you already actually have. So meeting in full consciousness is about coming to simplicity of your own being and keeping your mind in check, that it doesn't go too much into thinking, analyzing, or trying to find the meaning, because that will be a long way. A much faster way is to simply stay here, completely open and innocent as a child, and completely be willing to discover your own unlimitedness, yes, to discover how unlimited you are, to discover that it is already here, you are already aware, you are already conscious. And my pointing is not to understand everything what I say. No, that's not my invitation. It's neither to experience and see the altered states and colors and visions, because that is another distraction. My invitation is to be completely open, innocent, and curious, to openly discover your unlimited self. This is why it is full consciousness, not fragmented, unseparated. Beyond any spaces, beyond any places, realms, or activities. We meet in the neutral, soft openness, which is consciousness. If we look closer, This neutral, soft openness is limitless. It is the same as far as you can see. It is inside, outside, everywhere the same. It is the most natural place, the most restful place. That our body needs to retrain how to abide in this neutral, soft openness. You will sense that the body is holding tensions and stiffness and blockages. You will notice that as soon as the mind arises, it immediately contracts and goes into the background. You will notice that whatever visions arise, you lose that neutral, soft openness. Because all these places, all these spaces, and all these energies are manifestations, intermediary, and they exist in that openness, in consciousness. You will also recognize that it is so easy and simple, this neutral, soft openness, that anything else is complicated. That even the body is complicated. That any kind of energy is complicated. Any kind of thought pattern and trying to get the meaning is complicated. It's like spaghetti, it's like noodle. Trying to figure out the neutral, soft openness is like going into the maze, into the noodles, and trying to see the soup. Trying to see from the linear perspective how the totality is working. It's not gonna happen that way. Your mind can only be useful by retraining itself to stay neutral, soft, in openness. That is the only useful function of the mind on this path of immediate, direct access to the consciousness. Any other activity of the mind will take time, processes, understandings, inquiries, realizations. It's all nonsense. It takes so much time. To realize the neutral, soft openness. So this is a ticket. The ticket to the space shuttle, back to your own true nature. If you're gonna drive a car, you will not get there. Because this consciousness is like the sun, and how can you get there? Only by directly looking at the sun. The only process that takes time is retraining. Because our bodies are so much used and trained for experiencing stress. Our bodies are very well trained for stress, tensions, blockages, limitations, stiffness, hardness. So what did we train ourselves? What have we learned? We have only learned to accumulate and become heavier. So this is why it is retraining. It takes a little while for your physical body to relax, just be soft, to be completely neutral, to be completely open. So I welcome everyone tonight to this meeting in consciousness.